Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe. Look, it's one of our favorites.
Yes, Lisa Anderson from Focus on the Family and host of the Boundless Show. She is one of our favorites. And we have decided that anyone who's single and watching or listening, you have to run all your date information if you're going to get married through Lisa. She's got an app and she's going to run it through and make sure that person is good and give you a thumbs up. And then we'll go from there. Lisa, how are you?
I am doing well. That is so true, you guys. People need to do that. In fact, I even tell my fellow employees here, like some of these 20-somethings are like randomly getting engaged. And I'm like, did you even run this person by me? What's going on here? I need to do, like I'm everyone's dad. I need to sit down with them and have this talk.
You know, marriages probably would be better if some of them started with a good little tough talk with Lisa.
Actually, this is funny you mentioned this because my own niece met her husband, I'm going to say it, on Tinder, guys. This was after she read my book. So I don't even know where I specifically decry Tinder and its use and being a big colossal waste of time.
Yeah.
And so she's still paying for that one.
Oh,
he seems to be a good guy, but I'm like, this is like, are you just asking for trouble or what are you doing here? Like, what are the chances? So, yeah.
You know, you bring up an interesting point because there is wisdom, the Bible says, in a multitude of counselors. And I know that the heart, that heart is a funny thing because you can decide this is before you get into a relationship, this is the way it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. And then when you get into that relationship, the heart kind of gets stupid, you know, and it's so that's why you need somebody like a Lisa Anderson or a Lisa Anderson book, a podcast. It's the truth. I mean, really. And you bring up something which we want to talk about, which I had never heard of before. And you're around young people all the time. Where was Lisa Anderson, Dan, when you and I were dating our wives?
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago.
I don't think she was born yet, actually.
She probably wasn't born yet.
You guys. Well,
no,
somehow you survived. So that's good to know.
No, our wives survived.
Well, I was trying to be diplomatic there, but okay.
All right, you talk about something. This is something with the current culture. It's called situationship. Now, kind of define that. I have the definition here, but I want to hear it from you. And what is this?
Yeah, as if there wasn't enough dating dysfunction in our culture, we now get to add the situationship, which depending on who you talk to, Rick, we're basically talking about, this could be, if you were to read this article in Cosmo or in, the relationship pages of the New York Times or whatever, you would hear it largely in terms of like, it could be a friends with benefits kind of situation. It could be just a very platonic / whatever kind of relationship. I mean, the culture, it's kind of all bets are off. For Christians, in fact, I often, even in my book, The Dating Manifesto, I refer to it as the friendlationship. Situationship is another way that it's being called. But this is basically where you have two people who start out as friends. Nothing in the relationship is really defined, but someone starts usually developing feelings for the other person. Mm-hmm. But because nothing's defined, you kind of just have to hang in there and see where it goes. And so really it's interesting because in a secular culture, there's much less expectation. And so either the conversation doesn't need to happen or they have the conversation and it's just like, this is no strings attached. We're just whatever. We're going to make this relationship whatever we want it to be. But in a Christian context, and for those who are more values driven in the way they do relationships, where it gets muddy is you want to have a relationship. You maybe one party wants it to go somewhere, but because there's no pattern or progression to it, you're kind of just waiting and hedging your bets. And so I often describe it as, Ashley and Ben are friends. Ashley starts liking Ben, but nothing's defined. So she just kind of is there. Well, they are hanging out all the time. Friday nights, they're one another's pizza date because really they're just a sure bet and all of that. They have designated ringtones for each other. They know each other's favorite Starbucks drink. Maybe they have pet names, whatever. They're just kind of always there. Well, but because now Ashley likes Ben, she feels like she's invested a lot of time in him. And so she just needs to hang out and hope that, per every 80s rom-com, he is going to eventually wake up and realize what's right in front of him and have this amazing epiphany. Okay, well, what he does instead is one day, after hanging out for, let's say, a year and a half, he comes to her and says, "Hey, do you know Rachel?" And she's like, "Who's Rachel?" And he's like, "Well, that's that new girl in our small group at church. And I'm thinking of asking her out."
Wow.
Okay, at this point, Ashley is either going to burst into tears, punch him in the face, or go home and eat 3 pints of Ben and Jerry's.
Or all the above.
Because she has just realized that she has, for a year and a half, been in a situationship or a friend-lationship.
Wow.
But nothing was defined. Nothing. He never said they were dating. And so where did her expectations come from? And so that's why there's a lot of muddiness around this, a lot of hurt around it. And folks need to figure out how to head that off at the pass.
So should she have just slipped him a note that said, "Do you like me? Check yes or no," and that would have defined it? Or how did
that would definitely be helpful. However, once you're past junior high, it's usually not the best way of doing things. No, what you have to do is, this is why I'm a big fan of defining the relationship. So what happens in a lot of these relationships is people are giving up too much for what they are getting in return. So I always say, for every person, whether they're in a friendship or a dating relationship or whatever, the amount of connection that you have with a person should never exceed the amount of commitment you have with them. And so for some people, this includes, when a relationship gets sexual, all of a sudden it's like, well, we're just friends, or maybe we're dating, but now I have this connection with you. And when that relationship implodes, there's going to be a lot of hurt all around, because you have gone extra steps in connection without the commitment being in place. Yeah. So really what you have to do is it's a matter of establishing and even withholding, saying, because we are at this level, we are friends by definition. What do friends do? Friends hang out, and for a Christian couple, it's like, until that ring is on the finger, honestly, you are a brother or a sister in Christ, nothing more. There should not be really anything different about the way that you're treating this person, except that as you get to know them and you start dating them, you're going to maybe spend some more time with them. You're going to maybe indicate, interest in them and getting to know them for purposes other than friendship. And that's fine. But as far as the amount of emotional connection, the amount of intimacy you share, that is a very progressive thing that happens up into and including engagement and then marriage. And there are signposts along the way that you have to stop and take note of in order to make that progression happen healthily.
Lisa Anderson with us from Focus on the Family, the host of The Boundless Show. You hear that here at Faith Talk Atlanta. Boundless.org is a great place to go to. Could we say that Lisa is the Hallmark Channel's worst nightmare then?
Well, the problem is it always works out on the Hallmark Channel, or like I always say, women who if you, like I, have seen the 17 versions of Pride and Prejudice that are out there, it works for them, because for you to hate someone at first and then within an hour and a half, you're in love with them. Right. That works in the movies. It doesn't always work in person. And so you have to, put some thought and some prayer into that for sure. So it is a tricky business though.
Yeah. My description of the Hallmark Channel is that, and then at the end, it all works out. Lifetime, somebody usually dies, a man or a woman in relationship. So there you go, Lisa Anderson. What have you said to young ladies, young men that have come to you and you describe what you just described to us, and the approach that they should take, and then they go, "Lisa, you just don't understand"?
Mhm. And they do, because here's the deal. This is an investment. The reason that Ashley in my scenario didn't leave is because she felt she had just invested a year and a half of her life with this
Yeah.
guy, and
Yeah.
she needs to hang on. I mean, guys, I know you're going to just, you're going to flatline when I tell you this, but there are literally women I know who have done guys' laundry. They cook him meals. They do all this. They decorate his apartment, because their hope is by doing that, they are going to build some additional connections so that this guy will think of her as indispensable and will finally say, oh, I want this in my life consistently. And so I better start actually dating her and maybe thinking of her as a potential marriage partner. And so these women are giving up a lot. And I shouldn't say, now sometimes guys are on the other end of this. Any guy who's listening who has been the one who is the weird kind of substitute girlfriend, and listening ear for girls, or he becomes the perennial fix-it guy, or he's their Uber driver, or he's, guys can get used in relationships too.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful on either end, but you have to recognize that I tend to say, usually to the daters who come to me, I say, look, you're going to have a hard conversation here if this has gone on, and it really involves pseudo breaking up with a person or reestablishing boundaries in this relationship and saying to them, and I've had people say this before, you can no longer have access to me in the way that you have access to me without anything being defined, without any level of commitment to this. I need you to basically fish or cut bait. We need to figure out what this is and where it's going. And in fact, I will tell on myself, you guys, I'm going to tell on myself and a friend of mine, because let's hope she's not listening. But anyway, my story is I actually was part of a group breakup of a friend relationship. So it was a group of women from church hanging out with a group of guys. We were all in the same kind of Sunday school community. And we would just always do stuff together because it was so convenient. We always knew everyone was available. And finally, us ladies are like, none of these guys are really asking us out. Why are we spending so much time with them? And so we as a group broke up with them collectively to say, we're just going to stop this pattern. Because again, here's what happens is if you're hanging out with these guys all the time, all the other guys who are out there that might think that you're a person they want to date, well, they're assuming you're dating these guys. So they're not going to come near you.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happened to a friend of mine who, hold on to your seats, guys, 7 years she was in.
Wow.
7 years. That was the bulk of her 20s. She was going after a guy and being his best friend and hanging out with him. Everything that I mentioned, she got to know his family. She would do family Christmases with them.
Wow.
She became best friends with his mom. And after 7 years, the only reason she broke it off is she was so convicted that he had become an idol in her life that she knew she had to do something about it. And she sat down with him in a restaurant after 7 years and broke up with him from a non-relationship. He was like, what? I just always thought we were friends.
Wow.
And for her, it was like a divorce, and it took her 2 years to get over this guy. Meanwhile, those 7 years of her 20s, no other guys were asking her out because they all thought that she was dating this guy.
Right.
And so, I mean, what a waste. And she realizes that now, but I hope that listeners listening will find that out before it's too late.
Wow.
Lisa Anderson with us, the Balance Show. I was going to ask you, is there what happened in that 7-year relationship? Yeah, no doubt, right? I mean, 7 years, you think about, I'm thinking about, why in like maybe 2 years you figure out, hey, where's this going? Maybe I should go somewhere else. But 7 long years, she had that much hope that he would say, yeah, let's do it.
And there was some, I mean, and again, I don't put all the fault on her because again, this is where I would say that, and I knew this guy, we were in similar circles. He very much led her on. And again, he enjoyed the attention. He enjoyed the companionship. He enjoyed having his girl Friday, always there just at the drop of a hat to do, whatever, to do a spontaneous trip up to, Denver or doing, whatever. And so it's like, again, both people are getting something from this relationship, which is what makes it so dysfunctional because it seems like it's okay and it seems fun. But when when you realize and you do the math and you're like, what's my end goal here? My end goal is to find a life partner and to move into a healthy relationship with someone that really is going to go the distance. And if that's not happening, it's time to maybe ask some hard questions and maybe ratchet things back a bit.
Yeah.
Lisa Anderson with us, The Boundless Show. If you can, Lisa, if you'll stay with us for another segment, we've got a few extra minutes. Dan, if we can do that, we can keep her on. No, you're listening to Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst with Dan Radcliffe and Lisa Anderson. Hey, we are so excited to have Lisa. We get Lisa from time to time on the show, and she's just a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. We love her sarcasm too. It's really
the spiritual gift that she has.
Yeah, Valentine's Day coming up, Lisa, and we had talked last segment or just a few minutes ago about situationships. Let's talk. What are you saying about Valentine's Day and relationships? Maybe not situationships, but maybe true on relationships. What's on your podcast? What's on your radar? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, about half of my audience hates me when I talk about Valentine's Day because I actually love it. I'm a big proponent of Valentine's Day, but not because, it's so funny. I mean, maybe you guys can attest to this. I feel like singles act like, and we know that Valentine's Day for singles is called Singles Awareness Day, sad, so that we can all just collectively cry into our box of candy hearts. But I don't know a single married person that loves Valentine's Day. I mean, I feel like guys out there are like, this is a lot of pressure. Do I have to get a restaurant reservation? What am I going to buy my wife? Because whatever I do, she's going to hate it or think it's dumb or her friend got something better. I mean, it's like, I talked to so many married couples who are like, do you want to just come over like for a game night? Because we're not doing anything. So I don't think singles need to be all that sad about Valentine's Day. What I think is a great opportunity is to reach out. I mean, first of all, Valentine's Day is a great opportunity to evidence love, not just romantic love, but towards many people in your sphere. And one thing that I love to do is get together some of my elderly friends, most of them widows, and have a galentine's. And these are women who, maybe they don't have kids even in state. They've just become friends of mine through church or through my neighborhood or whatever. And so we'll get together, we'll watch a movie, I'll bake some cookies or a cake or something like that. And it just is an opportunity to bless them and to not feel sorry for myself. And my other single friends sometimes join as well. And so there are opportunities there to just do something fun and be about other people. And so we don't have to let the day own us. We don't have to let the day destroy us for sure. And so, but at the same time, if you are dating or if you want to be dating someone, in fact, we were just talking about this on the show, how, Valentine's Day is not really the best day to do a first date.
No, don't do that.
Just because, I mean, talk about pressure. You're really setting yourself up for something there. And I mean, I can tell you, every woman that gets asked on a first date on Valentine's Day is like, has this guy been like stalking me for 3 years? Like, why did you get a date? What's going on here? A lot of awkwardness around that. So, but for most, it's kind of any other day. But it is kind of a good time to take, to assess like, okay, you're now a little bit into the new year. What does your dating life look like? Is there someone that you want to pursue? For a lot of singles, it's kind of rounding out the holiday trifecta of horribleness that is Christmas, New Year's, and Valentine's Day, where every single person is like, here's another holiday I don't have a date for. And people are asking me, what is up with my love life? So you got to kind of be prepared for it. Don't approach Valentine's Day like it's going to, don't let it hit you like the flu. But there are really ways to redeem the day that are fun.
Lisa Anderson, boundless.org, The Boundless Show. And you guys just celebrated 15 years on The Boundless Show. Can you believe it?
I can't even believe it. You guys, I can say this because I cannot take credit for this. They asked me to host this show when it began. So I have literally been doing it for 15 years. But this podcast was the Boundless, that original team's idea. It was 3 married dudes who had kids. And I mean, that was at the beginning of podcasting. So the average podcast last 6 months or 18 episodes. And so the fact that we've been around for 15 years now is super fun. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually was a young adult when I started hosting the show.
You still are a young adult.
I like to say I still am, at least in spirit. But now that I have interns who weren't born on 9/11, I've had to recalibrate some of that. And I'm entering into grandma mode here with some of them. So,
wow.
Yeah. Do you ever go back and listen to any of them? And if you do, is there a favorite podcast, a Boundless show, podcast or show that you've aired?
Well, we just did, so folks can check it out for our 15th anniversary show, which actually came out on the 15th anniversary, January 26th at boundless.org. We did a compilation of a bunch of clips from shows throughout the years, and it is wild to see how it's changed, to see some of the, different things that I said or didn't say. So for me, there are a few highlights. I actually opened up my first episode of the show by saying, "Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson, and I'm contemplating buying a gun." That was my first line. It was born out of that night, that previous night, I had a large piece of art fall off the wall in my living room, and I thought someone had broken into my house.
Wow.
And it precipitated an hour-long back and forth in my head about, like, do I run after this person with a spatula? I don't own a gun. I don't know how to defend myself. And so I brought that into the show, and it kind of went from there. But of course, I've had so many great guests. I mean, you can name, Johnny Erickson Tata, Francis Chan, my own precious Bill Gaither of Southern Gospel fame. Anyone who listens to the show know I love me some Bill Gaither. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I've gotten to tell my story of singleness on the show, obviously, throughout the years. And then all my everyday guests of just young adults who talk about slugging it out and walking through life, being faithful to God in the process. And so it's been a neat ride.
Very cool.
Good stuff. Lisa Anderson from Focus on the Family, the host of the Boundless Show. Go back and listen to some of the best ofs and listen to this 15th anniversary one. Excited about that. Boundless.org. Lisa, as always, what a blessing you are. We love having you on the show. We look forward to more visits in 2023. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.